But now we're actually looking at transforming India into a game development hub. And I think that's the shift that we are talking about. That's the theme of our next very interesting panel discussion coming up in the next 2 minutes. I'd like to also inform you that our next panel will actually explore this very bold vision of transforming India into a global hub for game development. What I'm also going to do is, when we look into the gaming industry as well, I know we are at the forefront. We are doing our best. I'm going to request our members of the audience also to come front. Just come forward. Now, that's very important because so that we can make this interactive. So I know that some of our members of the audience are in a workshop outside. We're going to wait for them to come back. But for the others, I want to urge you all to please come move forward so that we can move forward and get our session started. Now, as the gaming industry continues to grow, there are key imperatives that will ensure that India not only competes, but also leads on the world stage in this space. So this discussion will actually focus on the strategies, the investments, innovations that's truly needed to make India the go-to destination for game development. So first up, let me please invite our session moderator. We have with us Sumiit Lakhutia, Senior News Editor, Times Network. Sumiit, let me please invite you on stage. And joining Sumiit, may I please invite our amazing set of speakers as well. We have with us Anando Banerjee, Production Head, Lakhutia Digital. Neha Yadav, Head Game Tech and Social Media, AWS. And Raghav Narsalay, Partner, Research and Insights Leader, PwC. Now, how many of you are fans of transforming India into a game development hub? Can you give me a hands raise as well? Yes, I see a lot. Then can we bring both our hands together and have a round of applause here? Come on now, let's welcome our speakers. I know it's that time of the evening where we're having back-to-back sessions, but let's give in some energy. Let's get some insights. With that, Sumiit, over to you.
Thank you so much for that, Kavya. Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic panel here. Important topic because it's not just about consuming. It's not just about having the low-cost data, the great processing power on our phones or laptops that we can use to consume games, but what can we do to make more games here? Like there was a time a few years, decades ago, when China was considered the factory of the world. India was considered the back office of the world. But can we become the first port of call for any global company looking to develop games? That's the kind of conversation I'll have with my stellar panel here. But before we start up, I just want all three of you, just maybe in 1-2 lines, if you could just tell the audience a little about you, your role at your current company, so that they also understand a little bit more about the context, the perspective that you're getting to the panel. So Raghav, if you could start with you.
Thank you so much, IGC. My name is Raghav, as you've been told. I'm with PwC, and today we have launched an interesting report at the IGC discussing how to really transform a sunrise industry such as gaming and esports into a sunshine industry. So that's where we're coming from.
Thanks, Sumiit, for hosting us, and thanks to IGC. I'm Neha. I lead the gaming business in Amazon Web Services. I've been primarily working with large B2C startups, so very familiar with the startup ecosystem, and last few quarters I've been focusing on game tech and trying to learn more about this industry.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anando Banerjee. I'm the production head at Lakhutia Digital. Lakhutia is one of the world's largest game art studios. I have been in the gaming industry for 27 years, so I've had the opportunity to see the industry grow from a really small state to where it is today.
So we should, offline, you have to chat with Rishad and find out, let him ask you what was the first game you played. But that'll be after this panel. But Raghav, first let's start with you, because yeah, the important point is you spoke about this report that PwC has released today. It's a very important report. I'm sure already in the audience, you must have heard about it. You must have seen when they launched it. There is definitely a way to get a copy to yourselves. But Raghav, can you maybe just highlight some of the salient points from that report for us?
I think the key salient point here is that gaming and esports is an industry that has not only the potential, but is actually contributing to this nation in a very big way. It could be through the way of taxes to the exchequer. But more importantly, I think when we really hear the term Viksit Bharat, the most important point that comes across is employment. And if you really look at this industry provides employment currently to about 2 to 3 lakh individuals, which is highly remunerative. It is not just any employment. It is employment which is skill intensive and is also going to provide similar opportunities for another additional 1 to 2 lakh, kind of jobs or creation of that in the next 4 to 5 years. And so therefore, from a Viksit Bharat standpoint, which is the focus of this report, I believe that this industry is already, kind of on the path of really transforming this nation. The second is, which is very relevant to the topic of this panel, and which is about the potential of this industry to become India's soft power. We continuously, underestimate that. And how many of you know that Snakes and Ladders is actually an Indian game? It went in the 19th century to the UK and then became Snakes and Ladders. So therefore, there is a huge potential that we are also identifying with the Indian IP, with the Indian, kind of very simple things that we've identified as Varli paintings. So say, for example, tomorrow you have a Varli painting and you can actually get together and collectively do a Varli painting and create an NFT out of it, a non-fungible token, and maybe sell it in the market space. And these are the opportunities that will come and arise, as we move and into a Viksit Bharat kind of a domain. So this report talks about many such opportunities. Needless to say, it also talks about the challenges, which is the skills gaps. It talks about issues related to government policies, but recognizes also that the government has done a lot and promises to continue doing a lot for this industry. So this report is very comprehensive. It starts by talking about the size of the global gaming industry, etc., delves into the size of the Indian gaming industry and its potential, talks about how the gaming and esports industry contributes to Viksit Bharat, talks about the challenges that the industry faces, and then ends by sharing a set of recommendations for the government and for the industry to transform this industry into a driver of Viksit Bharat.
Fantastic. So definitely a full, completely encompassing report which will add so much to this industry, which, like you said, is moving from sunrise to sunshine. That's where we need to go. Neha, before I come to you first, I'll just come to Anando. Anando, one important point that Raghav mentioned is the need for, while there are 2 to 3 lakh jobs, there is a need to create more jobs, which will obviously add to the economy growth, add to India's GDP growth as well. Important to create the jobs, one step of that is to have that skilled talent. And talent in gaming especially, and I'm the layman here, so please correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's not just about someone who can do the coding. It is about someone who, and not just someone who can create the beautiful graphics. It has to be someone who's able to maybe do both, or at least understand both, as well as storytelling, because a game at the end of it, or rather at the beginning to end of it, is a story that is being told. Your thoughts, like you said, you're a veteran of the industry. How have you seen Indian talent? Where are we currently in where we are and where we should get to be a important game development hub on the global stage?
Right. Before we come to skilling, there is something else that we need to do. My question is that how many bright high school students today are thinking of making a career in gaming? Very, very few. My company actually goes out, talks to college students, and as an exercise, as an experiment, we went to one of the top engineering colleges in Delhi, and at the start of a talk, we asked how many of the attendees wanted to make a career in gaming, and there was none. And then we talked about the career opportunities and how, what it took to be successful and what the rewards were, etc. And at the end of it, quite a few were. The point is that our school kids today do not know, their parents do not know what the opportunities are within this industry in terms of employment. So, we need to talk to school kids. College is too late. They've already made up their minds. So we need to be able to talk to school kids and convince them about the opportunities that exist in this industry so that a lot of bright kids also decide at an early stage that they want to make a career in this line. That's one. Second is that we do not have good training colleges. Our IITs, etc., do not have specific papers on game development. Our art colleges do not teach game art. So all of this is left to private institutes who in most cases are ill-equipped to provide quality education. They are so bad that we decided about 10 years ago to set up our own institute just to train people for ourselves, because we found that when we took people from other institutes, we had to anyway train them. So we run our own training institute because it's such a big problem. And we've taken it one step further. We've rolled out an offer to private and governmental institutes that, hey, we will partner with you. We will provide you trainers at no cost to you. Come, work with us. We're doing this in Hyderabad with a women's college where we've taken over their game art program and we're running it. But the sad thing is that there aren't too many takers. The government institutes are tied up with red tape, and private institutes are driven by profit motives. So so skilling is a problem. We need better programs. We need programs at good institutes, at the IITs or at the College of Arts to impart training in this area. We don't have even one good institute providing game design training.
Do you think
design is critical?
Sorry, just to interject, but do you think, with the Prime Minister speaking in his Independence Day speech talking about gaming, do you think that will somewhere help turn the tide?
Absolutely. And I want to talk about how, especially the changes we are seeing at the ministerial level, how there is, over the last 3, 4, 5 years, we are seeing so much more attention, care, and intent in bringing about a change, right? So this will change. It is possible for us today to think about, partnering with, I don't know, NCRT or whoever, and bringing those curriculum changes. So that is going to happen. That is going to happen over the next 2, 3 years. Yeah, skilling is super important. We are far behind. And unless the premier institutes take up an active role on this, we are going to continue to play catch up.
Okay, fantastic. So at least there is some hope, some positive ray of sunshine coming from there. Neha, one part is obviously talent that we've spoken about. The other part is technology also, which is really important, obviously. Globally, the countries that are leading game development use different innovations, different technologies. How do you see that coming to India? I mean, how do you see the Indian gaming developers maybe leveraging that kind of technology to be able to be competitive in game development on the global stage?
So, with Amazon Web Services, we've been associated with large gaming customers, including Epic Games, Warner Brothers, for more than 15 years. And what that has helped us is to understand what are the pain points of developers, what are the areas and solutions that we can bring for gaming developers. In India, if you see over the last few years, we've seen multiple gaming customers evolve, and I think the potential that we have here is immense, including likes of Dream11, Zupi, Nazara Technologies was here as well. I think the growth that we've seen just in the last 5 years has been immense. And we're seeing a change of tide. While your question is, what can we learn from global customers? I think we're seeing now global customers looking at Indian gaming startups to build for scale. Like for example, Dream11 Play Games touched their highest concurrency during IPL this year, to 15 million concurrent users. So it's becoming a case study for global customers to understand how do they build for scale. Now to your question, if I look at, I'll maybe answer in 2 parts. One is the trends that we are seeing, which part of them are maybe common across both global and Indian customers, and what are the use cases that some of these customers are adopting. I think first we are seeing in-game application. We've spoken about GenAI. What we're seeing, small language models being deployed at edge or consumer devices like an Xbox or PlayStation, which is creating much better player experience. We're seeing gaming developers asking for much faster life cycle development, and how can they maybe reduce the production overhead? How can they take off prototypes to production much faster? How can technology help them with that? Third is around the content creation. Gaming is very wide. It's not just text and image wide content creation. You are looking at 3D assets, you are looking at videos, you are looking at animation. So how can technology help reduce that life cycle? How can they create more content? And lastly, which is very pivotal right now, that we're seeing both in India and globally, is around responsible gaming. How can gaming customers build responsible games? How can they use technology to reduce player churn, ensure that players are not playing beyond a certain amount of time? And we're working very closely with different associations, building frameworks for customers to help implement that. In terms of the use cases, if I take these trends that we are seeing, I think firstly, the application development lifecycle, it's a horizontal use case, but for gaming, we've seen that change dramatically. People are using code generation assistant. So the life cycle it used to take them to maybe create a game earlier in 2 months, now that's getting reduced by 50, 60%. And that's helping them test out and experiment a lot more. Second, I would say, I spoke about the content generation. One of our customer scenario generates 100K images daily. And this is just done by 3 developers. And this tool was built in 2 months. And this is helping a lot of gaming customers in their direct B2B domain. And lastly is around the supporting operations, like the marketing, acquisition of customers, and support. How can we optimize for that? So we've built solution around those which are helping these gaming customers. So all in all, I would say, while there is a cross-pollination opportunity for both global and Indian customers, I think we're seeing a lot of white space and technology helping our customers to develop games faster.
Fantastic. Thank you for those insights. Raghav, coming back to you, couple of points. One is, you know what Neha spoke about, responsible gaming. That's very important. It's a current hot topic of conversation as well. How are you seeing maybe the role of AI in that, or what are some observations from from PwC point of view about responsible gaming?
I think I think this is an opportunity for us as a nation to provide what I call as a paradigm in gaming. We have given a paradigm to the world, which our Prime Minister talks about, which is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, right? I think I would use this platform to say it's time for us to really talk about a paradigm called Vasudhaiva Kridanam. Kridanam is a similar phrase like a Kutumbakam, where Kridanam, Vasudhaiva Kridanam means that you are basically talking about a gaming not as an economy per se, but as a community which is responsible to one another, right? Which respects one another's culture, which respects one another's thoughts. And so therefore, if we assume that paradigm called Vasudhaiva Kridanam, then automatically, you're creating an ethos of gaming which is responsible. And then the technology then starts moving in that direction. I mean, as I say, it's the paradigm, it's the mental, right? It's the way you start thinking about it. And so therefore, I see a number of, kind of gaming studios, game developers, kind of key players already using AI, right, to understand the behavior of players. They are using AI to identify a certain pattern of, how people are spending and, kind of trying to gridlock, right, for example. But you can do a lot more, which is to say that you can use, generative AI to maybe respond to a certain situation where you see that somebody is going in a very, very unwanted way on a particular gaming path. But then the generative AI can, create a very different situation which brings that person back on a different way.
Right.
So I think it all starts with a mental paradigm which the industry needs to accept. And once that paradigm gets accepted, you start developing, or the applications of that paradigm can come across the value chain of the gaming industry to use AI, generative AI, or any methods to make it responsible.
Okay, great. So you spoke about AI and I mean like the opportunity. Anando, I want to come to you on a challenge point of view. And what not the AI part, but a different challenge, what I see. Again, from my point of view, what happens is, okay, let me put it this way. When startups at one point of time, entrepreneurship was not cool. Now it is. I remember a year or 2 years ago, I met someone at a forum like this, and he was a speaker, and he was in his 20s, and his family was also attending, and his mom proudly told me that my son has dropped out of IIT, IIM somewhere, and he started his startup. Startups became cool, even though you might have left a degree, you might have failed at a few startups. The connection I'm trying to draw is to gaming, because in gaming, a fantastic India famous, world famous game does not come on your first try, does not come in 1 month, 2 months, takes years of development, years of failure. How are you seeing that? Is there a change coming about that? What kind of change would you like to see about that? Because once people are okay with failure is when people will strive to take the risks to create the out-of-box magic. Just your thoughts.
Yeah, so failure is really important. And I actually have been closely associated with the India Game Developer Conference for over 12 years. And one of the things that we probably will try and do next year is have a track on failure stories.
Wow.
We'll see whether that works out. But I think those failure stories are really important as the success stories, sometimes more important. Because there are, for every one success story, there are 10 failure stories, and you don't have to necessarily fail in every one of those ways to learn about them. It helps to learn from others, and also helps to kind of see that others have also kind of gone down a similar path as yours, and maybe found success later on. It's sometimes a question of not giving up on your 5th attempt, maybe going on till your 7th attempt or 8th attempt to really find success. So yes, and attitudes are changing, and more people are talking about, hey, let's not be shy about talking about our failures. Let's talk about our failures. Let's talk about them loudly so that, we all can send this message out to the world that it's okay to fail, and let's build on that, on top of that failure.
I think that will also somewhere help, on the first answer that you gave about how when you're talking to school children or even college kids and nobody's keen to get into gaming, somewhere there this would, I'm guessing, also help.
Just a small point there,
Yes.
that even though I've been in this field for 27 years, my father still says that I work in IT. So, so yeah, some things are kind of difficult. It's changing. It's definitely changing.
No, my daughter has done animation and visual graphics, and my neighbors keep asking me, "Ye karti kya hai? Cartoon banati hai?" So, right? So it's a common thing, right?
It will take some time to open up and for people to accept. Neha, one important part, and this is again some conversations I heard here and conversations I was having earlier also, is gaming maybe is so unique that you can't just copy what happened abroad and paste it here in India and expect it to boom, do well and stuff like that. And when we're talking about making India a global development hub, you definitely can't say, hey, I'll make the local edition of, I don't know, GTA or Call of Duty or whatever. I'll make the Indianized version of it. But how do you see India being placed where, what is our USP? Our USP is our Indianness, our local culture. We can use that to create something that would be accepted internationally. But how do you see maybe developers here making the most of that? How can they authentically maybe represent Indian culture while also appealing to a global audience?
I think a lot of speakers and panels spoke about the potential India has for gaming, right? And I think there's potential for both gamers and builders. It's not just the consumers. There's immense potential for builders. We recently, not recently, 2023, in fact, Saloni was here. We did a study with Lumakai, and one of the very interesting anecdotes was 80% of the gamers today are interested in playing games which are based on Indian mythology. And 40% of the non-gamers would be interested in start playing if this is something related to Indian culture. So before we go global, I think there's a huge potential locally to build for India and to build for Indian gamers. I think that is something that we've still not tapped. If you look at Ludo, you spoke about subsidy, right? During COVID, although it was a very different time, there were 250 million downloads. And I think that was an indicator of how people enjoy what they're familiar with. And that obviously is a potential for us to tap into. Globally, if you see, Global Development Conference, which happened in March 2024 this year in SFO, we had the Indian Pavilion representation for the first time. And majority of the gaming developers there were indie gaming studios. There were games around Mahabharat, there was a Bollywood theme-based game, and a virtual cricketing experience game. And the kind of reception that they had was really good. So what we understood from that was globally there's an appetite to look at games which are unique stories, which are offering something different. And we are very well placed there because of our diverse culture, different Indian mythology stories, and I think that's something that we need to tap into. We need to make the right investment and mentorship for these developers to build this. I think that's what's lacking. We have Krafton, we have Sony coming into the India Hero project where they are putting in money to develop Indian game. We need the larger gaming ecosystem to support these developers to build these games because I think the growth will come on from these gaming avenues eventually.
Fantastic. No need to ape the West. We need to look into our own culture. I don't know, next game could be a Panchatantra game. Who knows what could happen? Yeah, Ananda, you want to add something?
Just to add on to that, the fact is that if you want to build for the world, there are two roads, I think, that we can take. One is, of course, to look at who we are and build on our own stories, etc. The other is to actually look at the global market. Now, think of Angry Birds.
Because sometimes about the games are that they're great for a period. Like Angry Birds, Candy Crush was the rage at some point of time. Now also it's there, but it's not as crazy as then. So maybe it is also, it's an important point that you bring to the table. Raghav, you know, what Neha spoke about and she mentioned Ludo. The interesting is that Mr. Jaju, the secretary was also here and he also spoke about Ludo. But moving away from the game, actually, I want to talk to you more on the part of the role of government. Because we spoke about how the Prime Minister spoke about it at his Independence Day speech. What more is the government already doing to help this aim of making India a global gaming hub? What more do you think the government should do? Two-part question.
What the government is doing, I think, by the virtue of recognizing esports, by the virtue of celebrating participants, you know, at esports Olympics, etc. I think that celebration itself is a recognition that the government has already given to gaming and esports. And I think that is very, very important. Our Honorable Prime Minister speaking about it, just meeting gaming, you know, individuals.
Yeah.
But not only speaking, he's talking about it in Man Ki Baat, he's speaking about it from the ramparts of the Red Fort. It's a very continuous kind of a signal to the industry that yes, we recognize you as an industry which is going to really grow and give India the sunshine, right? So I think from that perspective, look at the steps also taken to establish the first AVGC entity in Mumbai in collaboration with, say, IIT. Now that is, and you know, that can give rise to so many other kind of things associated with what Nia was talking about, the Indian IP-ness of gaming, right? So that could be something which was very interesting. The third thing is at the level of states. So you see, you know, states like Telangana or Karnataka, you know, doing their bit. So there is this widespread recognition that there is a huge potential, people are doing something, and that the government needs to be there to help them. Now, I think, given the fact, and this is what I said, if you really feel the digital revolution in this country has happened because of the digital infrastructure that the government created. Now, I think, can the government really create, like the South Korean government has done, create the public infrastructure for esports, right? So that could be a game changer. If you really see what some of the Nordic countries are doing in terms of getting their, kind of youngsters involved into the technological aspects of gaming. And we say that, we are a software talent pool of the world, the AI talent pool of the world. But I think what Ananda was saying, right, that you need a talent of a specific kind which is nurtured up to a certain level.
Right.
So I think those are the specific areas. So infrastructure. So from a supply side, if the government provides the right public infrastructure for gaming and esports, tries, building or helping the industry with the talent pool, right? And third, of course, is by the regulatory measures. Since morning, we have been hearing about how now there is clarity as to who's going to regulate the industry, etc.
Yeah.
So I think those are the steps from a supply side, that the government is to take. And I would say from a demand side, you really need to integrate some curriculum on gaming right from the 8th standard. Take out the stigma for gaming. Like there was a stigma for entrepreneurship, earlier because of the fear of failure. You need to remove the stigma. You need to create that mindset within the parent to say, हाँ मेरा लड़का या लड़की gamer बन सकता है और इसमें एक career है.
Yeah.
So I think that should be from a demand side what the government can do.
Absolutely. Anand, the one thought that I had now, I just wanted to share with you and get yours and maybe Raghav's take also on this, is for an industry to grow, you need money, you need investors. And I'm not just talking about, say, VCs or funds. I'm just thinking generally, like, you need somebody to put in money, to be patient during some failures, and then you obviously need someone to be buying that also. Is there, sometimes you have that moment, or that moment where it clicks and suddenly the tide has turned. Do you see that moment coming? Has that moment already happened and we'll see the progress? Just thoughts?
No, I don't think the moment's happened. I think we need one breakout hit out of India. We have games that have kind of worked in little pockets here and there, been the #1 in this subcategory in the US kind of thing. We need one big global hit. A mobile game, forget about consoles. A mobile game, that's what we do best, right? One breakout hit, and I think things will turn. And I think that we are close.
Okay.
That said, we've kind of, as an industry, said, oh, this is just 2 to 3 years down the road. Over the last 10 years, we've said that. but I do think that we're really close now. Another 2, 3 years, this should happen. Okay. And if it doesn't happen, that's on us, if it doesn't happen. But we are close, and that breakout hit will change things for us.
Wow, okay, that's great to hear. Raghav, do you want to share any thoughts on that point, on the same thing?
No, so I think I completely agree with Anand here. It's the breakout, but I think the positioning also matters. A number of nations, so say for example, a nation like China or a nation like South Korea, position this entire industry in a very different way. How is our society going to position this industry? Leave the government. I mean, it's just a microcosm. It's a reflection of what we are. So the whole point is that how is the society going to accept this? Are we going to accept this only for the purpose of entertainment or for our growth? For the purpose of, just entertaining ourselves or for skilling? So I won't name the company, but guess what? Some of the largest mining companies today employ gamers because these gamers are sitting in the central unit trying to break rocks in the mines. How, so that's an interesting application, right? Where you are actually employing gamers because they are very good at, maneuvering the joysticks, etc. Their reflexes are very well done. And this is not today. It was happening in this mining company 4 years ago, right? So where I'm coming from is that, is the Indian industry at large going to embrace gaming as a toolkit to skill its employees? So that's the vision change, and therefore I say, it's not about the government every time. It's not about that one hit. It's about how the society perceives a particular paradigm shift towards an industry. And that's where we need to make a mark.
And I think a lot is also happening because of drones, because with drones being used all across, whether it's surveillance, in agriculture, you need somebody to be flying the drones, and I'm sure gamers who've played those kind of games would help. We're just about running out of time. One last, starting with you, Anando, then Neha and Raghav, last thoughts. What would you want to leave the audience with as we wrap up this on India's future? What can India do to become the global game development hub?
Yeah, I think there are two things that we need. One is, of course, talent that we discussed. The other is how do we get the big developers of the world, the Rockstars, the Blizzards, etc., to come and develop out of India? How do we get them to park their IPs here? How do we incentivize them to do that?
Right.
I think we need to work with the government to make that happen. The talent challenge is a significant one. And of course, the infrastructure challenge, right? Do we have the infrastructure available? So if we address those three, I think we will be well on the road to success.
Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, Neha, just your closing comments.
I think overall we need to change our perspective to say we are just not a technology hub. We are a creative hub with tech prowess and leverage the Indian IP that we've built, apart from the other routes that he spoke about as well. And in terms of, I think there's an opportunity for us to contribute back to the global gaming customers and learn from them as well. And I think in this ecosystem, that's a huge opportunity for us to grow in the gaming ecosystem.
Fantastic. Raghav, closing comments.
So I would say gaming is a culture. So can we create a culture of cultures? It's a unique opportunity for us as a nation to rise and shine, and for our gamers to create that culture of cultures and really build big. Just to give you a simple one example, what if we create games that allow our mothers and women to participate in gaming in a very big way, to enskill children with different abilities?
Wow.
Now what happens
Wow.
is, you are really transforming the landscape.
Yeah.
And you're then arriving on the global gaming standpoint to say, guess what? We don't only stand for the gamers, but we are also here for the differently abled people. And gaming is for everyone. And that's what I mean by culture of cultures.
Well, thank you so much, Anando. Thank you, Neha. And thank you, Raghav, for that insightful panel discussion. Great ideas, great thoughts. And, well, let's hope this thought process can change quickly, because once that thought changes, development will follow very quickly behind that. Thank you so much. Thank you, audience. Round of applause for the panel, please. And Kavya, back to you.